Species.
So hanging out with the wife the other day, talking about having some new friends over to the house for a cookout. They're Brazilian friends of ours. As we're discussing that, my daughter pops out of the back and goes, "Oh, we're having Brazilians over. So you know what that means." And my wife and I just like look at each other and both know, we're both thinking the same thing. Our daughter's racist against Brazilians.
Welcome to Origin of Species. My name is Scott. I'm here alongside with my friend Steve, as always. And so, Steve, what makes you think that your daughter's racist against Brazilians just because?
Well, she is, but maybe in a good way. So
okay.
she pops her head back and she's like, "Oh, Brazilians are coming over."
Right.
You know what that means. And we're kind of freaked
you're
out.
Like on the edge of your seat.
But she goes, "They're going to be very handsome."
Oh,
and
wow.
And I think for a moment, and kind of made sure I wasn't puckering anymore below my belt, that she didn't say anything horrible.
Well,
she's gonna regret. But in a way, she kind of is racist against Brazilians. But I think it's a good thing because Brazilian people are incredibly. I think handsome's a good word. They are very attractive people. Yes. And it's one of those weird. I discussed this with someone. They agreed, so it must be right. That I was like, even if you find a Brazilian person that's not really attractive,
right? They
still are handsome.
They're like true.
They're such a good-looking people that even the people that aren't attractive are still attractive.
Okay, I have many thoughts. The first, let me just run them down real quick, and you react to anything that you want to. So sure. The first one is, it reminds me of something you said in a previous podcast, or maybe you've just told me this, which I wish I could agree with, which is that what is it? Tan never looks bad or something. Tan.
Oh, everything looks better tan.
Yeah, something like that. Even fat.
Yeah.
So it's something about the coloring there too. Like they just look. Yeah. Now I gotta be so careful with anything you say.
Yeah, but problematic.
But you're right. I think even the most unattractive Brazilians.
It's a good thing. I mean, I guess in a way it kind of is racist, but
okay. Well, that's my next thought. Right. Okay, so. Does racist mean, does it have to be bad?
I think generally when
or is it just stereotypes?
Racism is used, you're saying a group of people have this trait because of who they are physically. But
that is racist.
But it's always negative. It's never in a good way.
Right. But so is there a word for it when you label a group of people? I think it is racist. I think it's still racist because if you sit there and say Brazilians are handsome, yeah, it's a positive thing, but it's like, hey, you're lumping everybody together in a group. Okay, so if your daughter's going to be racist, it could be a lot worse.
We'll see. We'll see if this release of this episode, especially with everything we'll discuss today, if my family gets marched down to NPR camp to be re-educated, we'll know why. Yeah,
we're coming in hot this season. One more, I gotta give a Brazilian joke here, and then we can get into the talking about how glad we are to be back and stuff, because I'm very excited to be back. So apparently during the Iraq War, there was one of those meetings they have between the president and I think it was Colin Powell and the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
Right.
And they're going over the morning thing they do where they catch everybody up. And Colin Powell tells George W. Bush that, it was a really heavy day of fighting yesterday. We did lose a few American troops. We also lost 5 Brazilian soldiers. And George W. Bush said, he started freaking out and he's just wringing his hands and he's like, this is awful, and they're kind of trying to figure out, 5 Brazilian soldiers is bad. I mean, 5 souls is bad, but given the circumstances, but he's inconsolable. So he speaks up and he says to the group, "How many is a Brazilian?" So I liked that one because it makes fun of George W. Bush and his, which we all miss George W. Bush now a little bit, right?
I think so. Who would have liked that? Janine Garofalo, if she's ever been found, which I think.
Yeah, Janine Garofalo. You guys had a good talk about Janine Garofalo on Personal Records. So if you haven't already, subscribe, like and subscribe, guys, and give us 5-star ratings. But so back to, we're here, season 3.
Yep, we're back.
We're back, baby. Steve and I are very stoked to be back and do our idioms and words and phrases.
And that whole thing about if fat looks better tanned, we've put that into practice. It might not be true, but we've tried our best to.
I can speak for myself. Steve's right. We came back. We are refreshed. Mm-hmm. We are raring to go, but
there's more of us to love, probably.
There's more, and I am. I can't say that I'm tan right now, but boy, I'm like fire truck red right now from I went to Water Country, USA. Oh, I shouldn't maybe name it. Can you name things you're going to talk? Well, we talked about Applebee's. We're no longer allowed to go back to.
I think we'll be all right. And I think if you somehow got banned from Water Country, it probably wouldn't be.
No, but I didn't get banned at Water Country, but I do have a question. Mm-hmm. How is it that like it can smell so bad outdoors? You know, it's kind of like in a barn, but like it just smells like
because
stinky people that didn't take a bath that day or a shower because they're like, we're going to be at Water Country.
It's the world's first all-gender toilet.
Oh, it's so gross.
The wave pool.
Well, I went in, and even the kids, we went into the wave pool for about 5 minutes. And we looked at each other, and I don't want to do this. And they all said, no, it's too packed. Then we had a good time because we're going to find a way to have a good time. Right. But there was a moment we were doing like the lazy river thing. Mm-hmm. And the kids wanted to do one more lap. And I was like, all right, cool. And I'm going to just sit up here and kind of wait for you. Yeah. And I'm just like looking around. And all of a sudden I start going, this is gross and disgusting. And I just got out of the water and I started looking at everybody. And of course, I look insane myself. I mean, I'm sure I don't look great, but I'm looking around and I'm like,
what are you talking about? No, not even close.
It's not our finest. It's like if you took about a baker's dozen Walmarts and just turned them upside down and dumped them into the water.
Insulting to Walmart. It's basically you're inside a hepatitis A ad when you're there.
Right. So
you probably have that now too.
But when we were growing up, was it not so there's Wildwater Rapids, which turned into Ocean Breeze and Virginia Beach, and then there's Water Country, USA, and Williamsburg. In my mind, Water Country was always like the classier one.
Right. That's because we grew up in Virginia Beach. Yeah. That reflects poorly on us.
It's not classy. I'll never go back.
I actually don't mind Water Country that much. I have a harder time with, I don't know, because it's almost because it's so gross, it doesn't gross me out in a way. And can you get vaccinated against hepatitis? I try to stay up on.
If so, I hope so because I get every vaccine.
I think it's the
twice
proliferation of tattoos of the neck and throat.
Well, the tattoos were just awful,
but it's the neck and throat too.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of neck and throat, but just a lot of bad tattoos in general. But it was also just a lot of people. So I jokingly talked about making sure you had trunks for swim season.
Yeah.
A lot of people were wearing like, gym shorts with like the underwear pulled up real high underneath it.
You gotta get support.
And like wearing like Nike Air Max with no socks on, just walking around. And it's like, that nasty smell of feet that have been in bare feet in shoes, sweating and getting wet. And just the whole park smelled that way. It smelled like the inside of one Air Max. It was like, who was it that had all the kids that lived in a shoe? That's what it smelled like. So but with water inside.
Right.
So.
And it's an Air Jordan. I despise amusement parks. I think King's Dominion's the worst.
It is.
Because all I do is I see people in bad decisions. And I'm like, I know that you're not matching your 401k. But all of your fat kids each have a 42-ounce Coke. And it's not the first one they've had that day.
Well, as we've said before, I'm
$12 a Coke.
Yeah, I could probably stand to lose a few pounds, but
you're tan.
Whew, boy.
I'm not getting off to a positive start, and I got to kind of blame you on that. You brought up amusement parks.
I did, but I got really red, and but I don't tan. I got that Scotch Irish thing, and
that's hepatitis B and C.
Fighting it
out
they're fighting it out right now. My body's
he's mine. No, he's mine.
Right. Well, because today, and also I had a coworker today, and it's like that thing where, and we're going to get into our idioms here. I don't mean to. But we haven't done this in a while. I mean, we talk anyway, but it's.
I haven't talked to you since you've been.
You haven't talked to me since I've been in Water Country, but this is another thing that I had happen today, which is, that thing where you get a haircut and people just acknowledge that you got a haircut, or even if somebody asks you, "Did you get a haircut?" I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did actually. They don't follow up.
Right.
It's just, "Oh, did you get a haircut?" Yeah.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
I'd prefer it if you said, "Hey, I like your haircut," or "You got a haircut,"
Right.
or just don't say anything at all.
Because you don't know if it's like did you get it? Did you pay money for that?
Right. But the worst is when people go, "You got a haircut."
Like affirmative statement.
It's like, okay, what do you want me to do with that?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I did.
They might be setting you up for the classic dad. I got them all cut.
Oh, I've
is
worn that one out.
I hate that dad joke, which means I'm going to say it
Oh,
probably within the next 3 years.
I've said it over 100 times. I've said it so many times, but I finally retired it. But the other thing is, so today somebody goes, "Oh, you got sun." I did.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go, "Does it hurt?" And I said, "No, it doesn't hurt."
Yeah.
But it's really red. Yeah, it doesn't hurt though. But what they didn't know that it was all the hepatitis family.
It was.
They're gonna. I didn't want to say that, but
they're gonna know when you sneeze in their coffee cup tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're getting a series of shots.
It'll teach you to ask me about my sunburn. So, Steve, what are we doing tonight?
We are doing gambling and card themed idioms.
Gambling and card. Okay.
Gambling and card themed. So I kind of went into these thinking they were all card themed.
Right.
And as we go through them, you could see where I was coming from with that. But so I think the best way to say it would be gambling and card themed. We'll start first with a definitely card themed one, which is card sharp.
Yes.
Or card shark.
So is card shark now, like that's one of those things that I always felt like I'm smart because I know it's sharp and not shark. But then you get doubly shamed when you find out that actually shark is acceptable as well.
Yeah,
is that true?
They're both legitimate. And we'll talk a little bit about the history. So card sharp and card shark, I think I would say they're both correct. It originated with sharp and then evolved to shark, but with good reason, as we'll talk about. So the term is somebody. Well, first, is this a term you ever use or?
I mean, I'm familiar with it
right.
Mainly because of the game show when I was a kid.
Yeah, and we'll get into that a little bit too. I think it's one that I will use every now and then, but I don't play cards that often. It's a very specific. It's something that doesn't work across a lot of mediums. I feel like
I agree. Like if I was in a room with a bunch of dudes playing cards, like which I don't do because I stink at it, but I'd say, "Oh, we got a card shark over here," and I'd probably say shark, even though I kind of know it's sharp, but. You know how sometimes you think you're like, I know this is pronounced a certain way, but I don't want to sound like a whatever. So I'm gonna. So I would probably say
sound like John Kerry saying Genghis Khan.
Yeah, exactly. Pretentious or whatever. So yeah, I wouldn't say I use it, but very familiar with it. And to me, it just means somebody that. Now I actually don't know. When I think about it, I think it's somebody that's not a cheater, but just really good at cards. That's what I think of.
You actually hit on it. That's the definition they give at Phrases UK. Is somebody who's skillful at playing cards or manipulating cards, or one who makes a living cheating at cards. So
so it can be a cheater.
So it's a little of both there with that. And I think the last time I heard it used was watching my aunt is an accomplished card player, and we were playing Sorry or Uno or something, but she gets the cards out, and you can tell this isn't the first time she's shuffled. There's like a level of skill with it that makes you wonder what she can do. And we'll talk a little bit, too, about some of the different ways you can cheat.
Well, do you know, what's her game of choice?
I don't want to know.
Oh, really?
It was actually one of those that it was impressive enough to watch that there was either I was going to lose money or there was a story that was going to come out that she didn't want people to know.
So it's like sometimes when you get that little hint that it's like in a book or a movie, somebody shuffles it makes me think of, what was it, A History of Violence, when the guy comes out.
What I was thinking about.
Yeah, and it's like, whoa, there's a backstory there because he knows how to take this guy down, or he knew how to. What was it? With a gun he did, or he took somebody down. I think
he curb stomped him.
But you go, there's a past there. So
yeah, which is good. So anyway, the first use of the term card sharp is actually traced back to a painting called The Card Sharps by an Italian painter, Caravaggio. In the painting, you see two young men playing cards. Behind one young man, there's someone looking at his cards and signaling the other card player, who also has several cards behind his back.
Yes.
So a lot of stuff going on in there lot of examples of cheating and how to be a card sharp. So again, this started out as sharp.
The guy, you showed me a picture of the painting. It looks like the guy's, I don't know what the hand signal he's doing is there, but
yeah,
it's
it looks like he's giving them I'm not sure. Let's look at that.
It's kind of like he's kind of throwing the peace sign, but
he is. But he's maybe ordering a drink. He could be doing that too.
That's better because he's looking at the guy's
maybe
cards.
He's at Atlantic City.
What's happening in this picture?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
There's cheating going on. That's what I think.
But it's so obvious. Oh, no. Oh, I see. He's showing the one guy.
Yeah. He's tipping him off to what's going on.
That guy's really good at painting, by the way.
He is. And he actually has several wonderful paintings, including my favorite one that I picked up, which I will share with you, and it's worth me.
Does he do the dogs playing poker too?
No, but he does one called Judith Beheading Holofernes. Or Holofernes.
Okay. Judith beheading Weekend at Bernie's? Okay.
Holofernes.
Oh.
Yeah. And in the painting, you see Judith beheading Holofernes.
That's awesome.
And the key, and I'm sure everyone on a podcast loves hearing a painting from the 1500s described.
Yeah,
but my favorite part is
there are many good parts in the back. Oh, yeah.
Just watching that, just very nonplussed.
I feel like the maid's making her do it. Or either that. No?
I think she's just grizzled. It's not the first beheading that she's seen.
Hey, you know what? This is good. We should do more of this because it drives people to the website. You got to go to the website.
Yeah. So if you go to Species.com and look for this episode, we will have a picture of the card sharps by
Don't just Google
Caravaggio.
It. Yeah, don't just Google it. You won't find it. You got to go to our website. So, okay, this guy rocks, man. But that is a disturbing yet I can't look away type of painting. So, but card sharp. You said it was the name of that other painting?
The Card Sharps.
The Card Sharps.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you have the
so
gentleman.
He got that from somewhere, I guess.
Yeah. So the term was used around a lot for people that were kind of tricksters. Some other names that went around for that were broadsmen, spielers, also something that was called practicing Greekery.
That's racist.
Yes, which it is, derogatory, but maybe accurate. I don't know. I'm related to a Greek person, so I feel like I can.
Oh yeah,
that's how awful they are.
You can say it.
Yeah. So around that time, sharping was also used to discuss swindling or cheating, but around that time too, the term sharking was also used to describe cheating or stealing. So that's why a little bit of an overlap. They seem to be. It makes sense just logically that they were both conflated.
Right.
To do that. So one of the earliest known citations of this in actual writing comes from the New York correspondence column of the Kansas newspaper Freedom's Champion from September 1859. And just a shout out to the Kansas newspaper Freedom's Champion. As we've gone through these idioms throughout the years, we've seen just, when magazines first started, we would see the London magazine, the Ladies magazine. Mm-hmm. This Kansas newspaper's gotten a little bit out of hand with Freedom's Champion. Just
you read my mind. When you read that, I was fired up. And also you said 1780 something?
1859.
Oh, okay. My bad. I misheard.
Yeah,
but
you were within 100 years.
I was thinking it was right after the, Declaration of Independence. And they came out. Yeah. Boom. Freedom's Champion.
But maybe they did. Maybe they were just Freedom's contender. And then they won the belt or something like that. Good point. So the quote they have from them, from Freedom's Champion in September 1859. Few of your men of the far west have any idea of the ups and downs of a stock speculator. It is true you have occasionally had the example of a card sharp who yesterday drove his tandem and only today is obliged to go to foot. So I really have no idea what that sentence means, just to be honest with you. It could be made up. But a few years later, in Wisconsin in 1893, in the Wisconsin newspaper, the Daily Northwesterner, which I like. They've settled down.
It's no Freedom's Champion.
It's no Freedom's Champion, but they've dialed it back a little bit.
Sure.
The term card shark is used. A few days later, Charles Petrie opened a gambling house, which was promptly raided by the city police. Then Petrie got angry and swore out warrants for all the other keepers until every card shark in the city was taken in. So
that was a big problem back then, man. Because
you had to gamble, you had to do bad stuff, and cards seemed to be a good way to do that. So one of the things that I enjoyed reading about this was thinking of different ways to cheat at cards.
Yeah.
Which I don't really cheat at cards, but if I do, it's pretty basic sort of stuff. I'm going to stare at somebody. I'm going to look over somebody's shoulder and see a card. I'm not getting any techniques. And goodness knows, with my poor hand-eye coordination, there's not going to be any, manipulation of the cards that I'm gonna.
Right.
That I'm
There's
gonna
not going to be any
use
David Blaine stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
The only time I would cheat at cards or cheat at games is with my kids, because either one way or the other. One is, well, generally it's just so like playing Candyland.
Yeah.
Which
that's of all the board games, that is the worst.
It's awful. It'll just wear you down. Well, no, I would say it's Chutes and Ladders is the worst.
That is.
That's what I meant. You know what they have in common? They both have in common that you think you're like, this game's almost done. And then boom, you pick the wrong card, you go down a slide, and you got to start over.
It's Chutes and Ladders is what I meant to say. Candyland's tolerable. Chutes and Ladders is from the devil. There's just no way.
But see, you can't really cheat if your kids can count. You can't really cheat with Chutes and Ladders and by the way, to be clear, I'm talking about cheating on their behalf to get them to win.
Yeah.
With Candyland, I would just smuggle like the whichever one was like the Lollipop Princess or whatever. And then if the game started to get a little boring, I just pop that baby on top, so the next thing you know, my daughter would pull it. And the game's almost
You got to do what you got to do sometimes. Yeah. Chutes and Ladders, it should be illegal.
It's painful.
So ways to cheat, there's things that are kind of basic. Collusion, as we saw in the card sharps, you have somebody peeking at someone else's thing. Yeah. Other cards. Marked cards, which would seem pretty obvious to do. But some of the other things I saw that were cool, some other terms I learned, a hand mucker, and that is a type of cheater that switches out cards. So they'll take cards that have been put into discarded cards will be put into a pile called a muck.
Right, okay.
And they'll find a way to take those out.
Yeah.
So one of the more common ways, which is someone who has no hand-eye coordination, I'm very impressed with, is bottom dealing. And I read somewhere that described how to do it in a way that people can't tell that you're dealing from the bottom. You're able to flick that card out,
right,
and not do that. And that to me is just impressive. Anything with hand-eye coordination,
oh yeah, There's this part
overrate.
of me that feels like sometimes you've almost earned the win, but not really. But it's like you actually had to work for that. It's better than collusion is you should get your butt kicked. But sleight of hand, I mean, you're still cheating, but
but there's some more thoughts in
there's
that.
Some artistry you brought to the table.
Yeah, so related to bottom dealing is second dealing, which is you don't grab from the bottom, but you know where the certain cards are, and you whip them out at certain times.
Right.
So anyone who can cheat at cards is pretty impressive to me. So card sharp, I think, is how it originated.
Okay.
Card shark, it's more popular now. I think a lot of it has to do with also the board game. Pardon me, not the board game. The game show from the 80s.
Was it Bob Eubanks?
Bob Eubanks was a second host on there. The original host was a gentleman by the name of Jim Perry.
Okay.
Who I remember from a game show called Sale of the Century.
Okay, I remember that one.
I remember it having a very interesting opening of the show. And I have no idea why I know anything about game shows, but I think it came on around that 10:30, 11 o'clock hour that you would that special time where you would watch when you were homesick.
Oh, I was going to say.
Right before Price is Right would come on.
That's the deal. I was thinking about this the other day because I was going, that's what we had. We didn't have the cable. You stayed home sick. I mean, there was nothing better than watching Price is Right. And Card Shark either preceded or came after Price is Right. For a few years. So,
No, that was a decent show.
Card Sharks was a good game show because it was fun. It was,
it had giant cards in it, which is always just amusing.
And I'm trying to remember, was it like 21 or no? It was like you had to try to get a card that was higher than the previous card.
I believe it was based off a game called AC Deucey.
Okay.
Which I like because it sounds a little bit dirty.
It does. AC Deucey, it's almost as... Well, I let the whole bottom dealing thing go, by the way, but now I brought it back up.
Or AC/DC could be like some sort of gimmicky AC/DC cover band.
Absolutely.
I can't think what their move would be. But Card Sharp and Card Shark are both. You can use either of them. I would prefer the use of Card Sharp because I think you sound a little bit.
Yeah, just don't correct anyone because then they'll come back.
Yeah, don't be that guy.
Yeah,
and we'll talk about that. We'll lay into our final idiom of not being that guy. I think that relates to that. So just a couple, I guess to conclude, just a couple notes of card sharpery used in film. Yep. So many episodes ago, I forget which one it was, we referred to the Kid Cincinnati.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think we had accidentally meant to say the Cincinnati Kid, which was a Steve McQueen movie. Well, I don't think he was a boxer, but he was a card sharp in that. And Steve McQueen can kind of pull off anything. There's a lot of card cheating you see in Barry Lyndon, which I also know we've mentioned in a previous episode. One of my...
Highly recommended.
Yeah, William Makepeace Thackeray novel, which I haven't read, but I've seen the movie, where Barry Lyndon's mentor, the Chevalier, is shown palming cards. And that's just a fun name. When you can
the
actually...
Chevalier? Yeah.
I would like that for a nickname.
Yeah. We could probably make that happen.
Let's see if we can make that work. That might be good. So, card sharp, card shark, you can use both.
Good to know.
Coming October 9th, a new podcast from Species.
True Facts with Robert Bankett.
True Facts with Robert Bankett.
History.
True Facts with Robert Bankett.
Science.
True Facts with Robert Bankett.
Literature.
October 9th.
True Facts with Robert Bankett.
History.
True Facts with Robert Bankett.
Science.
True Facts with Robert Bankett.
Literature.
True Facts with Robert Bankett.
True Facts with Robert Bankett.
To learn more, go to speaksies.com/truefacts. That's speaksies.com/truefacts.
October 9th, a new podcast from Species. True Facts with Robert Bankett.
All right, so we moving on.
Yeah, so moving on. So the next idiom is one that I thought was related to cards. It turns out it's actually related to gambling, to lotteries. And it's also an idiom I use often. And when I saw it, it was one of those ones that surprised me. I'm like, I use that all the time.
Yeah. And
the origin of it blew my mind. So it's draw a blank.
Yeah.
So is that something you say or use?
Unfortunately, I use it a lot because I draw a blank much more than I used to.
Yeah. Well, it's better than firing blanks, but drawing a blank is.
Yeah.
And by that we mean shooting guns without actual.
That's the only meaning I
there's
would
no
be
other
aware
meaning
of. Yeah.
that could be that.
Yeah.
And neither of us have that problem.
I don't even get the joke.
Yeah, me neither. So the origin of draw a blank actually comes from the lottery, but not just any lottery. Back before Mega Millions and that's the only lottery. I know there's like 15 of
when
them.
you said that, I thought about Shirley Jackson for a minute because I don't know why. The lottery, the short story.
No, I was thinking Haunting. She did the Haunting also, right?
Yes.
Okay.
But she's the one that did the one that's like the it's basically, you remember the stupid show that movies that I hated so much, Mockingjay, what was the
Hunger Games?
Yeah, where like somebody would have to draw. Anyway, whatever. Sorry. I threw this off because I thought well, okay, so it was the short story is wonderful. It's got a twist because everyone is ready for the lottery and it's this big deal. It's this little small town and everything is idyllic and it's great and they all gather together for the lottery and it's because whatever's number they pull gets executed, which is the big twist, dark twist at the end. So it's sort of like the thing with Hunger Games where they got to do tribute, but it sort of hits on that same theme as like The Giver. It kind of has that, you can have a utopia, but you've got to have the goat or the whipping boy or the sacrifice.
Well, that was a big inspiration for Tyler Perry's Boo Madea movies, were actually all Shirley Jackson.
I'm sure.
Yeah, he's a big fan, as I am also.
So anyway, I don't know why when you said you said that for some reason for a second I thought you were going there, but
yeah.
All right, sorry.
I'm not, but close. So it's with the lottery, but actually one of the original lotteries, a lottery that was established in Tudor England by Elizabeth I.
Oh.
So back in 1567, they were short of money. Like a lot of countries, they're taking turns going to war with each other. So they needed a way to raise some money. So they actually would set up a lottery. And the way that worked is you would put tickets with your name on it, would get into a lot pot, is what it was called. And this was before they had the technology to have bouncing ping pong balls, which we will come back to. Please don't let me forget that. That's
I won't.
one of the best things that came out of this. But to fill all the pots, they would put in blank slips. Slips without anything on them.
Okay, so you would pay your farthing or whatever they would pay.
Well, you would actually pay a lot more. So according to Phrases UK, the tickets cost 10 shillings each, and that was when a day's pay was a shilling.
So and the promise is, and I can see that working, right? Because
it still works. It still works now.
It does, but I don't think people pay okay. Yeah, I got a lot of thoughts about this. So, but going back to, let's stick with your thing though. So they would pay this. So the blank ones. Was that by? I mean, obviously it was by design, but was that like a known part of the game? Like you might pull one and it might be blank, or was that like, oh, I got screwed because I got the blank one, or is it just like I didn't win this time?
I think it's a little of both.
It's a very subtle distinction.
But it is. But I think at some time you would get something. Sometimes you would go to pick it out and you would receive a blank.
And you just be like, it's kind of like scratching off all the things and nothing's there. Yeah. Okay. So you didn't even get the intrigue of like waiting to find out. Yeah. You just know you're not getting it.
Yeah. They didn't have ye old gas station to go to.
Yeah, right. Ye old 7-Eleven.
Yeah. Ye old Wawa up the street. I don't know if we can segue into that later about if one of us dies, odds are it's going to be at one of those. Well,
I know we talked all this smack about all the 7-Elevens in Virginia Beach, and my good friend Kurt, God rest his soul.
Yeah. Pour out a Slurpee for him later tonight.
The Wawas used to be.
It depends on where it is. I think it's like with all things, location, but that Wawa that we'd pass through. And I have a real chain restaurants I don't go to too much. I have a real love-hate with 7-Eleven. 7-Eleven's like the bad girlfriend you go back to.
I was thinking the same thing. We've used girlfriend analogies in the past, or like girls from high school. And you're right, 7-Eleven is the one that you're like. Yeah. Actually, there's a joke there too that's very old that we shouldn't use.
Probably.
But,
and also the chance of hepatitis too.
Yeah,
goes up exponentially every time you go to 7-Eleven. So one of the first uses of this was written by a gentleman by the name of Sir William Moore, who was a very busy person, had numerous posts. One of which was Treasury of the Lottery in Surrey. Another one, which I prefer, Her Majesty's Deputy Master of the Swans.
That's the worst 007 movie.
So he wasn't. It could be, but he wasn't even the Master of the Swans. He was the assistant to the office manager of the Swans.
Yeah.
So one of his writings was called the Loseley Manuscripts. Which was an archive he kept of his family who lived in a home at Loseley Park. And one of the writings commented, describing a lottery, that one was a very rich lottery without any blanks. So that was a good thing.
Got it.
So it then was put into popular culture, probably mostly in 1800s. Washington Irving's Tales of a Traveler. Had a character that listed, that made a statement after he'd received credit for something he hadn't done. He stated it was like being congratulated on the high prize when one has drawn a blank. So just to take a minute to shout out, if you don't mind, Washington Irving in his Tales of a Traveler, which he wrote under a pseudonym of Geoffrey Crayon, and Geoffrey with a G, which I always feel like when I see that, I need to point that out.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. And what I kind of like about this is it was made in several parts, and most of the titles I think could be a good double entendre. Oh. For example, I believe that the use of drawing a blank came from a short story called The Adventure of the German Student.
Okay, is that 1 or 2?
Part 1.
Part 1.
It starts with that. Other ones, Buckthorn, or The Man of Young Expectations.
Buckthorn.
Relatedly, The Club of Queer Fellows.
Yeah, see, what I'm getting at, these do all sound like adult movies.
Yeah, they could be, but we don't. But maybe that's why he wrote under the name Geoffrey Crayon, because that to me sounds like an 1800 style, adult writer.
Right.
So anyway, Washington Irving maybe had a career as a I don't know.
They call me Crayon.
Ye old penthouse letters.
Exactly.
Something like that. So another thing that...
Ye will never believe this happened to Me.
I was at ye old 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
So drawing a blank came from drawing a blank slip out of a lottery.
So can I jump in here?
Please.
And if you're going to get to this, this is interesting because many times this happens where most of the time, like Card Shark pretty much knew what that.
Yeah.
By the way, I do this thing I just realized that I do, which is I don't want to commit to the K or the P, so I go Card Shark. I just kind of like end it like that because I don't want anybody to tell me because if you say a card sharp, you might get a weird look. If you say card shark, someone might correct you. So I go card shark. So the card shark thing is kind of what we thought it was, but this is not how I use draw blank. I use draw blank when I'm saying I can't think of something.
Right.
I don't use it as like misfortune or bad fortune.
Right.
So I'm. Right? I mean, is that just how I use it?
Yeah.
How do you, is that how
I
you
use it as
too?
when I can't think of something,
Okay,
I say I'm drawing a blank.
That doesn't really fit with what the origin is, which I find really interesting because that doesn't happen that often.
Yeah. And to clarify a little bit, to make this a little bit more negative, that they've certainly improved modern lotteries. I'm going to get to one of the ways they've improved it and a phrase that came out of it. So the way they did it is the draw occurred in two parts that involved two different pots. So first a number was drawn, and then a ticket with a prize was drawn from another. So you could have things that would happen that your ticket, you could get your own ticket,
right,
and then to go get your prize, and it would be a blank.
Oh,
so
geez.
It was definitely more than not just, forgetting somebody's last name. You were pretty much you paid 2 weeks worth of wages, to just have it rubbed in your face.
See, okay, so. Can we talk about the lottery for a minute
Please.
And give our opinions? It's a couple thoughts. First of all, there's part of me that doesn't mind it. I will say there's part of me that says, it's a game of chance. You know what you're getting yourself into.
Right.
But then you see the results of it, and intended or unintended, there are people, you see them. There's a 7-Eleven close to my house. And there are some of the same people that are out there every night. Right. And they're clearly, below the poverty line. And they're just scratching these things all day long. Yeah. What if you made a rule? Now, this would be hard to implement. You could have the lottery, but you can only buy like one ticket or 5 tickets. Right. Like, there's a limit somehow. But then it's like, how do you enforce that? You have some registry for the lottery. So
And you can. And I agree with you on that. Most of the time I participate in the lottery is when it's a very large pot. Right. And I look at it I justify it as an investment it is a low risk, high reward. Because at the same time, I am not deferring other things. But I've always looked at lotteries as almost like voluntary taxation.
Yes.
And it's also, be honest, it's targeted at the poor and unfortunate.
It is, because it's like this is my only shot here. Yeah. It's not like I'm also investing here and there. Although I've always thought this was, don't get me wrong. Obviously, people from all walks of life and economic background use the lottery, but it just is more dangerous.
It's backed up that it's doing it.
So, but the thing, I do the same thing when the number gets really big, and then usually it's like somebody at work. Like I'm trying to think. I don't know if I've ever just bought a lottery ticket. I think I've given $5.
Yeah.
No, I did buy them for like stocking stuffers because I think that's fun sometimes not for my kids, but for people that work.
But maybe your kids. Maybe you're missing out. Maybe you need to get them.
I don't
scratch your fever.
I don't. Yeah, exactly. Next thing you know, they're like jonesing for these tickets. But
you don't want them at that 7-Eleven anymore.
No, my kids aren't allowed to go to that 7-Eleven, which makes me sad because when I was a kid, I'd ride my bike to 7-Eleven. Anyway, so okay, but anyway, so that's it. So drawing a blank. Yeah, interesting.
So something I'm not drawing a blank on is one of the phrases that came out of this as I was doing research that is a relatively recent one, and isn't used too often, but emerged from coming back to the British National Lottery, now in its current form. Mm-hmm. So in 1996, the British National Lottery, which I think is different than the one that originally Queen Elizabeth started, was getting pretty big. Actually, they were celebrating their first anniversary after they brought it back. And one of the marketing campaigns they used, it goes back to the way they do it now. So often you'll see they'll have someone draw, balls from the popper and put the numbers up. So a catchphrase that caught on in England was, activate the balls.
Ooh.
And that's just fun to say.
It is fun to say.
And I think that I'm going to try in my personal life to when it makes sense to say, I'll let your ye old penthouse imagination run away with it and just see if I can incorporate that. So if you see me with a black eye next time, it didn't. When I shouted out "activate the balls," it didn't go the way I wanted it to.
Activate the balls. It's like release the Kraken. Anytime you can start a sentence with a verb like that, and
end it with balls, it's a good situation I think you're in. And by all this, I mean next time I'm out there hitting baseballs.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say golf balls, but
yeah, I said hit them. Well, I guess that would be the same thing also. With let's move on from that. So we're getting to my final one of the night, which I was going to assume is card related or gambling related.
Yeah.
But is historically, or not historically, has recently been viewed as problematic, which is but I'm here, spoiler alert, if you can read and have any common sense, it's not racist. So I'll just get that out of the way, and please note how I noted and prefaced that, which will be a factor.
So this is not racist.
According to me. Now, Huffington Post, Slate.com, not sure if they agree.
Yeah, but
they shouldn't. But anyway,
everything's
or they pardon me, they should.
They should. Right.
Yeah, but we know how it goes. So the origin of this phrase comes back to the 1st century in a book by Plutarch.
Racist.
Probably. Well, he's Greek. A Popthegmatum Lacon. Gosh darn it. I've focused so much on the other one. I know, I got the hard one down. All right.
A I can't say it myself. Something opus.
Lysanica. All right, I got it. A Popthegmatum Lysanica, which, by the way, Scott had 35 minutes of editing to get me saying that correctly.
I want to leave all the mispronunciations in.
Oh, gosh. Well, that'll be another 50 minutes for you. So we've before pretended there's certain things we've pretended to read, and I don't even think we can get even close to pretending that we did that.
Just, go for it.
So he wrote that book, which I will not say aloud again.
Okay.
It was translated in 1542 by a gentleman by the name of Nicholas Udall, in which he mistranslated a phrase. So let me read the original.
Okay, the suspense is killing me. You haven't told us the phrase yet.
Yeah, I guess I should do that. So it's in this old-timey English. So what I'd like to do is to read it as a Swedish chef, if that's okay.
Swedish chef! Yes! We've been waiting almost a year for this. No pressure.
Yum dish doo 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 Ordish to do boosty doom book book book. Philippus eats it. Did the Mr. Duties with feelers a new fun wheat in the tubes, but altogether Gloobers news to go, as which had nowhere to call a spade by any other name than a speed. That can't. All right, let me read that in English too, because I don't know. I don't think that's a good Swedish chef. So this is an old. So
it sounded like Mary Matlin doing this.
Yeah, it wasn't good. It would be the deaf Swedish chef.
No, it was hilarious. It was great.
It doesn't sound. I'm a big Swedish chef fan. You
get final cut on it, but we'll listen to it back because I thought it was good.
We'll see if it can stay.
But you did sound a little like you're like.
Yeah. It's tough to just hit because I didn't want to listen to it a bunch in the car because then I'd come and be like when I would do everything. Maybe I'll try it one more time.
It's legitimately good. If you want to do it again now, just knock it out, do it, and.
I can't read the rest of it. So
what is happening? So the Swedish chef is saying something racist.
Yeah, he's about to say something.
Excuse me, my bad.
Not racist.
Not racist.
So in 1542, Nicholas Udall translated Plutarch's book, but for some reason replaced the term trow or fig.
Trow?
Like a latrine.
Drop trow?
Yeah. No, more like a place you go to the bathroom.
Oh.
But he just messed it up. And basically what Plutarch was saying, that the Macedonians were stupid and couldn't tell the difference. they weren't smart enough to call a trowel by another name. And the way it was translated was, Philebus answered that the Macedonians were fellows of no fine wit in their terms, but altogether gross, clubbish, and rustical, as they which had not the wit to call a spade by any other name than a spade.
Oh, so, spade a spade.
And spade in that sense, in that time, is a farming tool.
Right.
It's a spade.
I believe you.
Yeah. And I should know more. You can tell us I'm a man
no,
of
what
the
was
earth.
interesting, I was listening to you talk, and you said something there about a club. So I was trying to think, is that that's another suit with cards? And you said this had something to do with cards, but then it comes back to the spade being a spade. Okay. Yeah.
So from this we see, I'll get into a moment something that spun off for this. So the term "call a spade" means someone that's not smart enough to call.
Okay, so
something by
so
anything
again
else.
a little twist to how we use it now. Like we say, calling a spade means just cutting through any BS and just. Let's just call this for what it is.
Exactly, and that's how it's used.
Mm-hmm.
So as the years went by, the term kind of branched out in a couple ways. One, you'll hear also black is the ace of spades, and that came back into as spade were more associated with cards than actually being a farming tool.
And so you would say something like, "Oh man, it was dark out there. It was black as the ace of spades."
And from what I've seen, that is not racistly.
Well, first of all, Omarosa would disagree because I'm old enough to remember watching The Apprentice.
Yeah.
She wasn't a fan.
Yeah. Looking at worldwide words.
Yeah. Michael Quinion.
Yeah. He had discussed how several years ago in California, someone was offended by use of that term and said it was derogatory. So I would say it's something it's not totally without merit to say that, because in the early 20th century, spade came out as a derogatory term for black people,
right? Which
isn't how they meant it back in the first century.
Okay, so your point, I think, is something I was thinking about here too, which is the origins clearly have nothing to do with skin color, but you can see where it could be used that way.
Yeah, and I think it falls under that category of, a good lie has a little bit of the truth.
Right.
To it.
Well, and people can use anything the way they want to and spin it any way they want to.
Yeah.
So
did some research to see what other people's thoughts were on this. There is a podcast on NPR called Code Switch, which I actually thought was about programming, and it turns out that it's not. It is a little bit like what we do here. Talks about words and idioms, but with more of a focus on race. So looking at their work, they have found the same roots that we did, traced it back to the book.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the original use was supposed to be called a fig and a trowel was the way that it was supposed to come out, and was mistranslated. And agree that, then also talk about the history of how the term spade began to be used derogatorily. So at their conclusion was that they said, use with caution, and then said actually it should be retired at the chance of unintentionally offending someone. So my thought on this is, we try to have a positive podcast and not be pejorative or be one of those. There's plenty of things on the internet that focus on negative stuff, and we don't want to be that way. We want to put light into darkness and just draw facts to things. So the way I kind of look at it is, there are a lot of people in the world. What's the old phrase? To someone that has a hammer, everything's a nail.
Sure.
To some people that want to be offended, they're going to find something to be offended about.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on who you're with or who you're looking for. I think it's one of those things. If you want to be offended about it, you can be. I don't think it's a bad term, and I don't like seeing a term go away just because people want to be offended. So
it's really happening a lot now, and I think that what I don't like is it's when you start telling people they can't say certain things because they're offended or somebody else is offended. I mean, I think. I will say there are some words that I have decided to go ahead and not use anymore, even though because I've listened to people and go, okay, you know what? It's fine. Whatever. But then there are other times where you just go, look, it's not let me give you an example. When I was, gosh, I hope I haven't done this on the podcast already. If so, sorry if you've heard it twice, but I remember my friend Ian got pulled to the principal's office I was in 10th grade, and because he used the word asinine.
Mm-hmm.
And the principal gave him a whole lecture about how that kind of language isn't going to be used in school. And he's like, asinine is not it has nothing to do with the word ass, but it offended the teacher, which just kind of gives you a little idea of my education growing up. But anyway, you can't just tell people not to use words. So where do you land on it? You're saying it depends on the situation.
Well, part of me wants to say that, but then I see things like from theroot.com gives a list of words that have racist origins. And when they discuss call a spade, totally ignore that they say for 500 years it meant to tell it like it is. Mentioned in the 1920s, it became a code word, and their conclusion is it's probably best to retire this phrase forever. So when I look at that, it makes me think of the old line, shut up, he explained. That sort of, just don't say it. So the way I look at it is it's not, the origins of it make it clear that it's not racist. I don't know anyone that uses the term from the 1920s. I don't know who you're hanging out with that uses that term as a derogatory term. And if you're hanging out with people using that, maybe that's more of your issue. But it's not racist. And if Huffington Post and Slate.com are on the way over here, I'm okay with that. My daughter thinks Brazilians are handsome, and I agree with her.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree. So we've debunked pot calling the kettle black and spade a spade.
Mm-hmm.
I had to explain to my kid the other day because it was a great it was a great real-time teachable moment where I don't remember the show we were watching, but somebody was calling out somebody else for doing something that was racist. It was probably, you know what it was? I hate to mention it was a reality show that is kind of a PG one that we were kind of watching together. I had like a cooking show, I think.
Yeah.
And the person said, yeah, we don't use that term. And I was like, there's nothing wrong with that term. I don't remember what it was. And they go, and in that same sentence, they said, I just don't want anyone to feel like they got gypped in this whole situation. And I paused the TV and I said, so look, I just want to point out to you that, you could be upset about the term gypped too. I mean, there's so many things if you go back to the roots. So it's like, where are we going to draw the line? So that person, somebody else could call them out and we could just go on forever. And anyway, so, all right, well, awesome, man.
So in conclusion, you can use card shark or sharp. Drawing a blank refers to the lottery, and to call a spade.
Use at your own discretion?
Yeah, or to call a spade. It's not a racist term.
Not racist.
Yep.
Hey, thanks for listening to Origin of Species. We really appreciate it, and we're going to ask one more favor. If you can give us a rating, if you liked it, we'd appreciate that very much. You can also tell a friend about us. Sometimes you just need a break from all the murder podcasts, which personally I do enjoy, but sometimes maybe you need a break and you want to hear where, call a spade came from. So feel free to share that. We also have another podcast coming out soon. That's True Facts with Robert Banquette. So be on the lookout for that. And I have my other podcast, Personal Records, where I talk with people about their favorite albums or albums that are very important to them. The last episode was Illmatic by Nas, and it was a lot of fun, so check that out. All right, I think that's it. Thanks again for listening.
Activate the balls.